So while we spend a lot of time talking about bullet trains, factory investments, and rightfully so, but the real heartbeat of the India-Japan relationship is the people-to-people connect. Last year, at the 15th India-Japan Summit, both leaders had set a massive goal, which is to move 500,000 people between our two countries over the course of the next 5 years, including sending 50,000 highly skilled Indian workers to Japan. Now, in the next 30 minutes, our focus will be on the actual ground-level roadmap to make this very ambitious target possible. Our speakers here will be discussing how to move past the big promises that have been made and to really tackle the on-ground challenges. How can you actually have mass Japanese language training? How can we prep up our youth for Japan's highly disciplined work culture? And of course, turning India's big demographic strength into a powerhouse talent pipeline that really fills and plugs the gaps that exist right now with Japan's workforce shortages. Those are key issues, but really at the heart of this entire India-Japan relationship is the people-to-people connect. Dr. Ravi Kota, Dr. Shamani Roy Chaudhary, and of course, Nupur Tiwari, who's looking lovely in that Japanese kimono. Essentially, the spirit of Japan right here on the dais. So thank you so much, all three of you, for joining me. Let me start first by asking the very premise of this entire discussion. Japan needs people. India provides those people and talent shortages, but India also needs those big global opportunities. Building that institutional bridge is essentially what this entire discussion is all about, and will ensure that the full potential of this partnership is actually achieved. And that's a question I put forward to the entire panel. Nupur, let me start with you on that.
Thank you so much, Jyoti, and thank you for having me. India has population. Japan needs people. Very simple line, right? It is the most difficult thing. So I don't want to scare people here, but Japan is not other country. You just understand something, you just go to university and you can just migrate there. Japan is completely a different country. Of course, we all are different. India is a diverse country, our states are different. I'm not talking about those. Japan was not global. It was locked for 200 years. Japan, if you go to even countryside of Japan, still you will be called Gaijin, you're a foreigner. Again, this is not a bad thing or sad thing or wrong thing because they are not exposed to foreign countries. Now here we are expecting that our people, we will just send our people just like that. This is really not very practical idea.
So what do you suggest then?
Yeah, so that's the reason I think there are a lot of Japanese schools are building, a lot of SSW, Japan has started, whether these SSW system where you can train them and you can send them to Japan. But Japan is not only learning the Japanese language, Japan is completely different country, completely different culture. Even though I know many people, they know how to read, they cannot speak Japanese. Even though they speak, they don't know how to behave with Japanese. And it is totally completely, if you're working in a corporate, it is totally how to speak, but even a small example I'm giving, when you are leaving before someone, it is 5, you can leave. But you have to say, Osaki ni setsure shimasu, I'm sorry for leaving early, but you're not leaving early. You're leaving, your time is done.
So you're right about the fact that there are certain Japanese traditions, work ethic, and a way of life, and imbibing that
culture,
and the culture, of course.
Right.
Imbibing that is essentially what will ensure that the people-to-people ties are strengthened and the full potential is actually tapped into. So,
exactly.
So those are very important points. Dr. Shamani,
I just want to say last point here. 736 AD, the first Indian landed in Japan, Bodhisena. Since then to today, we have only 50,000 Indian in Japan. Here you go.
That's actually a very underwhelming figure because, it could be 10 times, 100 times of that, but that's a very underwhelming figure and really contextualizes this conversation as well. Dr. Shabni, you want to come in there?
Thank you for this opportunity. When I look at it from an academic point of view, and I look at the skill sets that originates from the academics, platform for the industry, there is a gap in this whole model, which we have to what is the expectation that is there when you look at Japan. My colleague in the platform has talked about the cultural aspect of it. Beyond the cultural aspect, there are a large amount of work that we need to do to make our skill sets capable to address the needs of Japan. Yes, we have a demographic advantage. Japan needs us as we look at it. But there is a way that we have to promote this entire activity. There are lots of work happening at ground level to enhance capability of our engineers, our STEM people enable them to be able to fit into the Japanese work culture. I think that is for the next round of questions, right?
No, but go ahead. Finish your point, yeah.
Okay. So effectively, traditionally, if you had to go to Japan for your higher education, there were three options. That is the MEXT option, the Indian scholarship options, and the MEXT option is a Japan Education Ministry's various scholarships. You had the Indian few scholarships that allow you to go abroad by your choice, and you had the Japan Foundation Fellowship, which was targeting the higher education. But since this program started, or little before this program was brought onto the table, there is a program started with Sakura program, which was a short-term visit of Indian students to Japan at a higher education level, such that they had a feel of Japan for 10, 15 days, and then they plugged into going for higher research, etc. That has been upgraded to what is called the Lotus program. It is essentially, so far it seems to be targeted mainly to the IITs, etc. But I think Japan has to understand the larger potential lives in the central universities programs.
Okay.
So we would be they would definitely be over time looking at that. But what is interesting in this Lotus program, which I really feel a very important differentiation, is they start by going for short terms so that they integrate what she is talking about, the cultural aspect of it, that integration happens. More importantly, the fear of Japan is lost. What she said, that Japan is a very different country. YouTube is very, very popularly seen by the younger generations, and they do have that understanding. So they fear. But that fear gets absorbed when they go beyond and stay for a few weeks, months, and over a period of time go for work, etc. I think that's a very excellently good program that has emerged.
So two things both of our panelists here are saying. Nupur, of course, highlighted the huge cultural differences that exist for people who go to Japan for the first time, and when they aspire to actually build a life, a career there, they need to be prepared for the kind of cultural differences that exist. That's one aspect to it. Dr. Shabni pointed out the other aspect, which is that, Japan is also now looking and must also evaluate opportunities, keeping in mind that it needs people. So unless you build those bridges, those two extremes will never come together. And that is exactly what needs to be done. And there's a need for both sides, both for India and Japan, to create those bridges. And Dr. Kota, let me ask you the other aspect to it, which is when you talk about the India-Japan equation, we've spoken about Northeast being that special space. It has that special place in the relationship. Whether you talk from an infrastructure point of view, whether you talk from a connectivity point of view, or whether you talk from tapping this 500,000 people moving between those two countries for 5 years point of view. In your assessment, how can the Northeast states, particularly Assam, tap into that 50,000 Indians who can go to Japan opportunity the best?
Thank you so much. In fact, before I get into this thing, couple of points I would like to mention. Our Chief Minister, in the very beginning, 2 years back, he told two things when it comes to Japan-India kind of relations. Language is infrastructure, especially when we talk about Japan, the kind of proficiency rigor we have to follow. So we have to put that system in place. Second thing is that bilateral trust best established at the subnational level. That's the way rubber meets the road kind of a situation. So therefore, we have put in a system. We have come up with where Assam sits at the intersection of India's Act East policy and also growing demands of the Japan for the skilled, semi-skilled, and caregiving kind of a workers. So we put a three-pronged kind of a model on language training, then teachers development, and third one is that structured overseas placement, and is all end-to-end run through two organizations in Assam. One is the Assam Skill Development Mission and second one is Assam Skill University. Now we have identified 6 different areas where Japanese demands are there. There is the hospitality, IT, agriculture, caregiving, accommodation, and nursing. So based on that, in fact, our Honorable Chief Minister was in, it was catalyzed during that visit to Japan in January 2025, followed by our Investors Summit, Advantage Assam, in February 2025. We worked with them very systematically. And we created one program called CM Flight, because this is a 500,000 kind of a thing, how we can contribute from Assam and the Northeast. Chief Minister's Foreign Language Initiative for Global Human Talent. So it's a scholarship program, but as part of that, the 3 private organizations also, we took it as a partners, ASEAN One, Jasix Ventures Private Limited. We are working with those private agencies and the Mirai Language Center. As we speak today, first batch of 150 candidates are undergoing that training. So that kind of a structured program we have started, and this kind of a structured program will be able to start with the kind of a requirements, and also to put that intense engagement with the employers and also the embassy. So we want to do that well established, vetted kind of a institutional mechanism for the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, before I get in the aspect about can India realistically prepare thousands of Indians, let's also then talk about the targets that are there. You have 500,000 and 50,000 being the sub-target in it, right? If you look at India's numbers, that's a very modest target by all measures. But again, the preparation that is needed, given the cultural differences, can that happen? And where do you think policies can come in to ensure that preparation can happen at the earliest? Nupur.
So definitely policies are very important. Policies are made, but they have to be implemented. You know, both my co-panelists, they talked very well in a policy point of view, academic point of view, very rightly they said, but the implementation here is very important. And Japan, Ambassador Verma also here, and he experienced, during his, when he was ambassador there, even the little bit of trust. Japan is not only the companies. When you're sending someone SSW and working in home, that old age home, and little bit trust, if it is broken, the entire country, that an Indian broke it, the entire country would be stamped. Because, why am I talking about that? A bit of negative sense, because, I have been living in Japan from last 23 years, and I never lived with Indian. I always lived with Japanese. I started with a small city, very small, you can call countryside. Now I'm in Tokyo. So I have seen the Japanese, how they work. I worked in, when I was a student, I worked in old age home. So how they develop the trust. When they trust you for everything. I'm not saying that 100% Japanese are same. At least 70%. What am I there? So here we have to be very careful that we know what we are doing. Policies are made. Now we have to implement it with all the honesty, dedication, and patience. That I can say.
Okay. Dr. Shravani, sectors where you think this potential can be tapped the fastest? Because, Japanese economy is at a different arc. The Indian economy, the Indian demographic dividend is at a different arc. In your assessment, where do those sectors and which are those sectors where this opportunity lies the maximum?
Of course, automobile sector continues to be their dominant sector, and therefore we would have enough opportunities out there. The IT sector, where our software skills are very strongly appreciated. We already have the main TCS, Wipro, all having their agencies out there. But when it comes to looking at how we can really embed this entire thing, I think one part of it is to tap them young. That is, look at, these days the private schooling system has a huge summer school concept which has emerged. I think that is where Japan can tap in and make students go out there for a summer. And apart from studying some small activities, they can also get to know Japan, which enthuse them to be targeting Japan as a country to study, to live, to work. This is one aspect I think that is very important. The second important thing is that universities to university programs should emerge where we have lots of Japanese students coming and spending time in India. That kind of thing is really lost in the post-COVID period. Even if lead universities like JNU are having very few Japanese, whereas previously we used to have around 10 to 12 Japanese, but that should increase. More Japanese students coming and spending time in India, in universities, even if it is for short duration, does impact the Indian youth to look at Japan, that going around together, etc. There's a feel-good factor which emerges, which encourages them to go forward towards, any kind of higher education or skill sets that will enable them to work in Japan. I think this two-part can be looked as an immediate impact of doing things. But more importantly, I think a stronger study of what is the need of Japan with respect to each, where sectors and variables should be decided, and see if we can plug it into our education system.
And I think that's the larger point, simply because, the level of automation that exists in the Japanese economy is completely different. So only those sectors need to be tapped where that ideal fitment actually exists. Identifying those gaps is going to be critical. Dr. Kota, let me then ask you the other aspect which we, dwelt on earlier as well, which is about how Assam can plug into this opportunity. Specifically with regard to linguistic handicaps and challenges. That's a real handicap and challenge for a lot of students, for them to pass those rigorous Japanese language tests, something that you alluded to as well earlier, is a real challenge. What is the government doing about it? Is it ensuring that it comes in the level of the curriculum? Is it ensuring that it can reach out to students early? How is the government of Assam really building on that as an opportunity?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. In fact, we have started this work already. We have this Assam Skill Development Mission and Assam Skill University. Now, Assam Skill University is the institutional anchor for doing this. Along with the Japan Foundation, New Delhi, we have already started the Japanese teacher development program, because this is very important. So we have come up with this month onwards, 20 candidates will be trained rigorously for 8 months in the classroom with the help of the Japan Foundation. And we wanted to scale up that so that these candidates who learn up to N3 level, so they will be able to teach the other people and create a kind of a successful cohorts. And these cohorts will go around even at the district level also, and work with the nursing colleges, engineering and technical institutes, etc. So we need to increase that number because without that learning ecosystem and which can be sustained over a period of time, will not be able to create that kind of, to overcome the language handicaps. So that one, along with the employers, because depending on the sector where what kind of proficiency is required, we are working with them. And so this model perhaps many other agency, which is the private agency in training of the teachers for the Japanese language, we can plug into those kind of resources through this institutional mechanism and then go forward.
What about training that helps employees get seamlessly what allows and ensures that companies are able to seamlessly absorb youngsters for Japanese employers? There are a lot of Japanese employers in the region, but again, that training is an issue, language is an issue. How best can that seamless induction happen, and what's the government doing on that front?
So on this, I would like to give you a couple of examples. In January 2026 and again March 2026 happened. We hosted Osaka Prefectural Government, led by Executive Director of Osaka Growth Industry Promotion Office. So they directly engaged with the talent pool available here, and they began that kind of an exercise and looking at their employer requirements. So then that has given a lot of feedback to us, and which we are building it into our skill university kind of requirements. Second thing is that there is agriculture. We have organized Japan agriculture job fair in Guwahati, and there is a 5 different Japan agricultural employee groups attended that. So they interacted with the students and they tried to understand that what are the requirements where we can improve their skills along with the language, so that they will be useful in those sectors. So employer, the kind of a sectoral requirements and the language. So institutionally we are trying to address all these things.
Nupur, as someone who's lived in Japan for 23 years, what will be your message to youngsters evaluating opportunities in Japan? What would be your message to them so that they can look and tap at those opportunities?
So, of course, the Japanese language is the first thing, but you have to make sure that you're speaking the language more than you are, reading. Spoken language is more important. The second thing is you have to understand teeny tiny culture of their daily lives and their corporate. If you're going to work in the corporate, then you have to corporate totally different, how they're working, how they're greeting, just like they have a small thing. This is a very small thing for us. We will give the card like this, okay? But giving card, exchanging card, like with 2 hands, you have to bow down and you have to respecting everything. Japan is, respecting everything. So the third thing I would like to say that the core system of Japan, it is like combined of Shintoism and Buddhism. So it means the God is everywhere, and you have to, everything is important. Okay. So they say that Toire no Kami-sama, it's mean even the God is in toilet also. So you should clean the toilet every day. So these are very small things, but you have to understand that they're dedicated to everything. So I think culture, these teeny tiny things, if you really want to go to Japan, nobody's, it is not definitely, nobody will force you to go to Japan, but if you really decide to go to Japan, these are the things you have to understand, and you have to, just like, the small example I'll give, when the Parsis came, to India, that the king said that this bowl of, I think, milk, this is already filled, so we cannot have any more. Then the Parsis, they just
put some sugar,
a spoon of sugar. I said, see, this is more sweet, but I'm here.
Yeah.
So this is the same way you have to, that we are not going to disturb your culture. We are here to be one of you.
I think that's the most important part about integration and assimilation that is very important when you understand and talk about the Japanese economy and the Japanese society. Let's open this up. Let's take about 2-3 odd questions quickly. And before we wrap this up, any questions to anybody in the panel to introduce yourselves and to whom you would like to ask this question to? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon. Lovely session, I must say. Nupur also happens to be a dear friend, so I'll just put the question across to you. So as somebody who moved from India, and India and Japan are culturally different, what were your biggest challenges, and perhaps the one thing that you really look forward to every time you return to Japan? Thank you very much. The name is Huda Zariwala. Thank you.
Thank you. So my story is completely different. I didn't move to Japan. Japan called me. So Japan really calls you. Japan will call you. So Japan called me. So my story, keeping it aside, when I go back to Japan, the first thing, the quietness. So I can meditate everywhere. I'm a spiritual person, very deep. So the quietness, which is actually I look forward to when I return. Even I'm taking the limousine bus from airport to home. It's a quiet, I feel, oh, I'm back. Okay. So that is the thing I look forward to when I'm back in Japan.
All right. Yes, Ambassador Verma.
My name is Aiksana. I am Managing Director of Indo-Korea Business Culture Center. Wonderful panel to give description of Indo-Japan relationship. I have been working with the Japanese embassy, trying to give them suggestions and the importance of Northeast states. It's after banging the PMO's office and with our Prime Minister that today he has gone 86 times to the Northeast states. And so we as Indians have to wake up.
Yeah.
My request to Ms. Nupur or anyone in the panel,
Yeah.
everybody is talking about economy. How do we change our mindset to understand the discipline, the determination, the unity among Japanese? How do we understand that mindset which we have to reform and transform?
That's a great
Please
question,
advise
sir.
us.
Let's get Dr. Kota to answer that. And then quickly, Ambassador Verma after that. Yeah.
Thank you. In fact, certain things can be taught in the classroom, and beyond that, and we need to give them the kind of an ecosystem and the amount of time they spend with Japanese as an employer or in their society. I think slowly the things will get inculcated. But to give that opening, then we have to create that kind of a window and some kind of a structure. To begin with, of course, one is that bilateral kind of a goal of 500,000. Second thing is that each state at the ground level, we have to create some kind of a vehicles to get on board those people who are willing, young and energetic, not at the mid-career level, and go to the places, learn some basic things. And during that, we have to, that training, create a kind of enthusiasm in them to learn and learn those values and the discipline, etc. from Japan. And thereafter, of course, once they are working with those companies and the country, then they get into that. And definitely we expect this will happen. And we all know that it's a slow process, behavioral change. And sometimes it takes generations, but definitely there is something we have to begin with. Thank you.
Mindsets take time to change, but that's the whole journey all about. Last question. Yes, sir.
Very quickly, we have been talking a lot about how Indians can become Japanese. Let's talk about how Japanese can become Indians. Because after all, any bilateral relation has to have a middle path.
Yeah.
What do you think, all panelists, what do you think Japanese should be doing to show more flexibility, to understand India better than they have been doing so, rather than putting their value system on India? Thank you.
Perfect. That's the diplomat asking that, where is the middle path? Where is Japan walking in the extra mile? Dr. Shabani, you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah. Frankly speaking, what is unfortunate is when you look at the Japanese who are interested in India, it is essentially been culture. We have lots of Japanese who have learned dancing, they've learned many musical instruments, etc. Link with Shantiniketan is very strong. However, I think the Japanese are also very keen to learn English. We are a huge opportunity out here for India because we do have a large English-speaking population as well as English language classes available for them. I think it is opportune time for Japanese to actually seek and come to Indian universities for their education. And mind you, I think our education out here is comparable to the most of the Western education, which they all flock to. So I think we need to promote our education system. Only aspect that again would come down to is the infrastructure, mainly with respect to residential living of Japanese. We have to work on that.
All right.
I would like to answer this question.
You want to take that offline?
No,
because we are holding everybody back for lunch.
Just be a second. Yeah. So definitely, when it comes to India, the most of the Japanese, they think that it is Bollywood. Unfortunately, they go for learning Bollywood and everything. So I think we have to promote our culture the way Ambassador Verma did. We have to promote our culture. We are not only Bollywood, but we have 5,000 years culture, or the Sanskriti. That is, I think, we have to promote the way Japan is promoting Japan. the same way we have to promote us. I think they will be very much keen to learn.
Absolutely, Nupur, very well put, and I think that sums it up. At the end of the day, people-to-people ties are the bedrock of any partnership. How to elevate those is what this entire panel was brainstorming. Completely out of time. Thank you so much, all of you.